So Tiffany invited us here to basically share the story of our lives, I guess, and help encourage others who have experienced some challenges in education to overcome those challenges and understand that it is definitely worth it to pursue education in a meaningful way and to take wholeheartedly and very seriously the opportunities that you have as a result of pursuing and advancing your education. I think the irony for both of us, and I'll speak for myself first, in our passion for education and for young people is that I'll start with myself. I dropped out of high school when I was in the 10th grade. And so I guess I could say that I have a ninth grade education, and I experienced a lot of challenges in my life as a result of my poor decisions. And like I tell people, I'm also running for city council in Oakland, but I tell people all the time that sometimes when you experience hardship in your life, and especially being a high school dropout, you fall into a lifestyle that you can't sometimes imagine a young person overcoming and having the tenacity to overcome. But with a lot of prayer and a lot of support from people that cared about me, I was able to overcome some of those obstacles and challenges. And I think even going through college and exploring my education and thinking of education and myself as a student and a scholar, it was difficult for me because I thought that I didn't have what I needed to survive. I thought that I didn't have what I needed to be successful in school, that I found that all that I needed was in me, and I used all of and I used it back then and I use it now, all of the challenges that I faced to really be a motivation to other people and show young people as well as some of the peers that I had, some of the other folks who dropped out of high school that still live in my community, to show them that you can to make a difference in the community and change the lives of young people and overcome challenges.
And then I'll chime in there, and then we'll get into our background story. Like Naisha, dropped out of school as well. It wasn't, something that I chose to do. It was something because of what was going on in my family life. A lot of hardship. I guess I dropped out in the ninth grade. I tried to do the ninth grade again twice. Didn't quite make it, and then ultimately got my GED, and then went on to pursue higher education. But I wanted to chime in and say we both dropped out of high school, and we actually dropped out of the same school. We knew each other, knew of each other in our high school, but we weren't friends, and then we ended up reconnecting with one another several years later, and then of course find ourselves really close friends and love to share our story with anyone that will come and listen, and whether it's motivating other people or just letting you know that even though we took a non-traditional path to higher education, we made it, we pursued it, and we were active in what we did, but we also had help along the way. It was just people opening doors for us, but us knocking on those doors as well. We didn't have a handout or anything free, as far as somebody handing us something. We worked very hard for it. And then I'll let her start with a little bit of her background on, the things she's gone through and where she is today, and then I'll chime in from there.
Once again, I'll say that I experienced trauma as a young person growing up in Oakland, and I think that oftentimes, you have inner city young people who have lack of just caring adults in their lives. My mom cared about me deeply, but there weren't a surplus of adults around me that cared about my success or were examples of what I could become. So I followed a path that was very dangerous and scary, and I know a lot of young people that I talk to today that have some similar experiences even decades later. And although I took my GED, I still felt sometimes compelled to go back and forth or waver between what type of lifestyle I wanted to embrace. And I'm thankful that I embraced education and just pursuing the best outcomes for myself. It didn't have to happen that way. And I did have people along the way who were encouraging me to take very seriously the educational opportunities that were available. After I took my GED, I enrolled at Grambling State University. Again, like she said, we didn't take the traditional path, to Cal, which is where we received our undergraduate degrees. But we did take a path, we did take steps because we felt that we were worthy and that we were capable of attaining the higher secondary degree or secondary education, pursuing secondary education. I guess when I was at Grambling, I knew that I wanted to go to another four-year university. I thought it was great that they gave me a chance because Cal would not have accepted me with a GED. I know that for a fact. But Grambling did. And while I was there, I got pregnant with my first child. And I think I was 22 years old. And it was tough being far away from home and having a young baby and feeling like I wanted to make sure that he was receiving the kind of care that I thought was best for him. So I moved back to Oakland, and that's when I was pregnant. I actually met Dee Dee. We were at College of Alameda in a psychology class, giving them havoc, just doing all kinds of fun, crazy stuff as students in the class and excelling and having to challenge or beat the obstacles that they were putting in front of us because they thought that we weren't as smart as we had proven ourselves to be. That's another long story. But after having my child and she had already been accepted into Cal, she introduced me to the person that had helped her and supported her admittance into the university. So I guess I can
chime in from there. Well, I'll give you all a little bit about my background. I grew up in Oakland, California, West Oakland. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with that area. It's considered one of the, the hardest places to grow up. I grew up in an area called the Lower Bottom at that. So, and my parents were teenagers when they had me. My mom was 17 years old, and I was her second child. And my dad, 17 as well. They had my brother when they were 16 years old. And as a result, neither one of them really understood what it would take to raise a child, let alone two. And I'll kind of fast track it a little bit, but my mother was not a part of my life. I didn't really know her growing up. I did not live with her. All I knew was that she was addicted to drugs. She used every drug you could name, was also a heavy drinker. My father had taken my brother and I and tried to raise us the best that he could. I know he remarried when I was 3. In fact, he married when I was 3. He didn't remarry. He and my mother never were married. But when I was 3 years old, I had a stepmom, and she had 2 children of her own, and my father brought 2 children into that union. They had 2 more kids. It was 6 kids living in a house together. And our home was, it was okay. It wasn't, I wouldn't call it a bad home or anything like that. We grew up in the projects. It was more housing projects across the street from the Acorns. And my father didn't really work. He kind of dipped and dabbed in illegal things to make ends meet. My mother worked, my stepmother, she worked at the post office. And ultimately, my stepmother and my father ended up getting a divorce from my father's lack of I want to say, response to what a traditional marriage would be and the things that he did. He dipped and dabbed in illegal activities. He, sold marijuana and dipped and dabbed in, a pimp type of thing, prostitution. It was all kind of little things going on there in our household. And we saw things as a result growing up, but I didn't really realize how different things were until the divorce happened. I always looked at my life like, okay, we're these family living in the projects, but we had a nice home. Everybody looked at our house like we had nice furniture. My stepmother was working. It was the most stability that I've had. And when the divorce happened, my father kind of spun out of control and started using drugs heavily. And my stepmother tried to help, but she really couldn't because, we weren't her children. And my brother and I found ourselves at the age of, I was 12 turning 13, kind of just out there with really no place to go. My grandmother tried to help and intervene, but wasn't really successful in that. And we had another grandmother that didn't really want to get involved in it. So we found ourselves really going from house to house. And at that point, education wasn't at the top of my list. I was trying to go to school. We were always told to go to school. Make sure you go to school. Make sure you get, your high school diploma. Those were the things that were said in our house, and something that we took to heart. But when you have a crazy, living arrangement or environment, it's very hard to focus on school. Over the next several years, I found myself kind of going from home to home and getting involved with a young man that sold drugs. And of course, me getting in that lifestyle, I ended up falling into a lifestyle that I wasn't prepared for just by association. And at the same time, still wanting to make sure that I continue to go to school. And the young man that I was with, I moved in with him and his mom. And one of the things his mother kept telling me, just keep going to school, keep going to school. And when you have someone in your ear, when you already have it in your heart, you constantly want to make sure that you do go to school, but you have all these outside influences. And then my brother.
But you should know how old you are, because they might think you were in school.
I was 15 at the time.
Yeah.
I was 15 years old. So I would say my life from 14 through 18 was just really chaotic, and I ultimately I could not keep up with trying to go to school and what was going on in my personal life. And there was a lot of things in my personal life. I don't want to care to share every little detail, but it was chaotic. I found myself in dangerous situations. I was even I accidentally got shot in my face at the age of 14 years old, just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, somebody playing with the gun, and I'm around it, and I'm in the emergency room not knowing if I'm gonna live or die. And by the grace of God, I survived. It wasn't anything major, and you can't even tell that I've had that kind of injury, but this is just the lifestyle that I was exposed to, and I knew I didn't want to go down that path. I watched my mother, I watched my father, not have good lives because of what they were engaging in. And it was something I always look and say, your parents can be your role models. I do look at them as my role models of what not to do. I, wanted to make sure that I was successful. And it was very hard when you're young, because you don't know where to start. You want to get a job, but you're too young to get a job. You have to sign for bids, and I'm like, where do I go from there? But I knew I just kept having to, continue to go to school, and that's what I did. By the time I turned 18, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna get my GED, because I couldn't quite go to school every day. It wasn't for lack of learning or wanting to learn. It was just not attending school every day on a regular basis. So as a result, I never could really get definitive grades, and I ended up repeating the 9th grade twice. I went to a continuing education school, where kind of always getting started with one school but not really completing it and finishing it. So at the age of 18, I got my GED, and I'm still surrounding myself with, I won't say negative people, but these are people that I grew up with, and you kind of find yourself doing whatever the crowd is doing, whether you're going out partying. I didn't use drugs or anything like that, but maybe drinking every now and then, coolers or something like that. But I wasn't really focused on education, but I knew it was something that I wanted to do. So getting my GED was the first step in finding out, okay, this is something I need to do. What do I do next? And I enrolled in Hill Business College shortly after that, and I did well. I stayed there for about 10 months, and I attended an event with someone, a picnic in the summer, and they were going to Cal. And I said, well, wow, how did you get in Cal? I wanna go there. I wanna try to get in college. And this is something that I didn't think could be possible, but I just I was this person on the outside looking in, like, well, how do I become part of this crowd? Because it felt peaceful and it felt good, and I was around other people, whether they were African Americans or just anybody else, just feeling like, that they're getting educated and they're on their way to do better things. And for me, I wanted to be a part of it. I just didn't know how to go about it. And she said, well, why don't you go and talk to this lady at Cal? She can explain to you, how you get in. I thought it was a long shot, but it was one of those, well, let me go see. I know at least with Healed, I had aspirations to be an accountant. I thought that would be a good profession for me. But I went to Cal, and when I went, I spoke to the lady in the admissions office, and I told her, I said, I'm interested in going here, and she gave me an appointment, and she said, well, you have to go through a JC, and what are you doing now? And I told her, I'm at Heald, I've been there for 10 months, here are my grades, and she said, well, submit a personal statement for me, and I could tell you what classes you need to take at a junior college to get in this school. And I said, okay. And I don't know if she thought I would submit the personal statement. She just gave me information, this big, thick packet. And I called her, and a week later, and I said, I have my personal statement. She said, well, bring it in. I brought it in, and we talked a little bit more. And she said, I think you'll be good for the school. Let me read the personal statement, and then I'll help you pick your classes for the junior college, and we'll see from there, where to go. I got a call from her, I think the very next day, and she said, I read your personal statement, I want you to come in and talk to me. And when I say my personal statement was really personal, it included some of the things I'm sharing with you, but of course a lot more intricate things about some of the things that I've experienced, how I got to where I was, a lot more about my parents, and just my pursuit of education and where I saw myself. And it also includes the fact that was very important to me, which was no one in my household talked about college. I never thought college as something that I could attend or African Americans in my neighborhood could attend. I think now people are understanding you need to go to college. It's, your chances of obtaining a better job and making a higher earning is greater when you have a college education. I did not make the connection as a young person because no one told me that. I think first experience with understanding college was watching a Cosby Show. It was like, oh, they're going to college, but I thought it was for rich people, or you had to have money to go. I didn't know there were grants. You can get scholarships and things like that. So when she brought me in, she said, I read your personal statement, and it almost brought me to tears. And I need to know, this was in May. And she said, would you be able to attend this school in August? And I just looked at her like, what do you mean? She said, if I let you in, would you attend this school in August? And I said, sure. I didn't think that I could really go to Cal, but I didn't tell her that. I didn't think I could survive, put it that way. She was letting me in, and for a moment I was doubting myself because I'm thinking, okay, I didn't finish the 9th grade, but it was one of those things to where I didn't really know what I could do. I knew I passed the GED. I don't even think I studied for it. I just showed up, took the test, and passed it, and was like, what do I do next? I did well at Heald, and I think that's what, for her, she said it was my grades at Heald, which I had gotten all A's. I had never missed a day. She looked at my attendance. She said, I see you as a person that's on the verge. I want you to make it. And you came to my door. I don't know why you ended up here, but through reading your personal statement, I feel like if I did not let you in, I don't know which way you would go, and I want you to make it for yourself. And I'm going to let you in. Just make sure you don't let me down and don't let yourself down. And I didn't know this lady. This is my first time really, my second time seeing her, maybe third time speaking with her because we spoke over the phone, but she didn't know me. She didn't have to do that for me. And of course, she told me, in the meantime, you need to go to summer school and take these classes to help prepare to come in this school. And she was kind of like my mentor. She walked me through the classes that I needed to take and just gave me preparation on what it will be like in school, and just told me, this is the thing you need to look out for, and this could help you and what to study for. I'm really terrified. I didn't think I could actually do it, but I didn't want to not try. For me, it was, I knew education could be a game changer. I just didn't know how significant. And fast forward, of course, I started Cal in 1994. She let me in, and I met Naisha that summer, the following summer. Was that summer? Okay, I met Naisha that summer when I went to a JC. I think we went to Lane College, Peralta. One of the Peralta colleges. And I was explaining to her, that I'm starting Cal, and of course she was pregnant, she explained that. And I just saw in her the fight that I had. We were in school, we got A's, and the story that she was explaining to you was the professor actually thought, something was going on with us because every single week he would give a test, we had the highest grades. And when I met her, my first impression was her. She raised her hand a lot. She talks too much, like, oh my goodness. But I gravitated toward her because I thought that she was very smart, and I think she gravitated toward me because she thought the same. And he even questioned us. One time he put us to the side and watched us take a test because, you know, this was a psychology class. It was supposed to be very difficult. And he's just like, you two are really acing this test, you know, and he wanted to make sure we weren't cheating. And we're like, is this?
It wasn't even him, it was the TA.
Oh, okay.
So, because I was pregnant, like 8 months pregnant, and the TA is the final exam, and she comes in and goes, can you guys please sit separately, because, you know, we just want you to sit separately. I'm like, what? All my attitude all over my face. Because I was embarrassed. I was like, how you going to come to me in the middle of everything in the world and let everyone see you tell us to separate?
Yeah.
So I marched my little pregnant self down to the teacher. I was like, what is she trying to say? And, you know, and then he was like, don't worry about it. Just go ahead. And I was insulted. I was insulted and embarrassed and humiliated, and I was pissed, excuse my language, but I was just very upset. And so we went back and we
took the test, and same results.
Still got A+.
And they watched us. But for me, I don't think I was insulted. It was just more of an affirmation that you're doing well. You know, you are really doing well to have somebody pull you to the side and question, you know, the veracity of the grade. And I think from that point on, we became friends. And I looked at her like, wow, you know, she's pregnant, she's trying. And I like to surround myself with people that are moving forward with me. You know, not doing something different than what I'm doing. And as she and I started talking, I realized we had a few of the same friends, went to the same school. That's when I'm like, oh my God, I do remember you from tech. We just, you know, we're in a different group of friends. And she remembered me. And it was one of those, well, how are you doing at Grambling? You know, your whole family's here. Do you want to come to Cal? I didn't. You know, it was one of those, you know, you can go talk to this lady that I spoke with and see if you can get transferred. And then that's ultimately what she did, and then I kind of let you take it from there.
I think that that opportunity and her willingness to share, because some people get to a certain place and they want to be there by themselves. They don't believe that it is, you know, very important to share amazing opportunities with your peers. They want to get there first and say, I'll bring you up, or they want you to stay behind while they advance. And her encouragement and willingness to kind of step outside of that norm I was very, very happy about that and indebted to her for that. And I think one thing I wanted to highlight is that we both kind of talked about our lifestyle in our childhood and our parents, and being raised in a single household. My mom was illiterate. She was also a high school dropout, raised in West Oakland as well. And some of the things that our parents showed us were not necessarily the most positive things, but they gave us the best that they had to give. And they provided us with enough hope and self-confidence to move beyond the barriers that we had encountered in our lives. And so I appreciate my mom. She passed away, but I appreciate her for everything that she allowed me to do, even the crazy stuff that she allowed me to do, because if I hadn't had those negative experiences and traumatic experiences, I wouldn't be able to connect with young people and folks in the community that I need to connect with and share my testimony, so that they too can know that they can succeed and overcome challenges. But once I was allowed, I think I submitted my personal statement after I had my first son. And mine was very personal. And although I knew that college was a possibility because my aunt she has received her master's degree from Cal. And when I was 2 years old until I was 4, I actually went to school with her. You know, sometimes you have a little kid and you have to bring your child with you. I don't know if any of you have that experience, but I've taken my children to school with me at every level. They've come to at least one class, each of them. But she took me with her, and I would sit in classes and her lectures with all these big words flying all inside the walls. I didn't know what they were talking about, but somehow I think that it sunk in for me. And it was my destiny, I think, to attend Cal, because I had that exposure early on. So I shared my story with her, and she, just like Dee Dee, she was like, okay, you want to start? And started in, I think it was August the next year, and I was like, yeah. She said, take these classes, and then you can enroll. And
But I will go back and say that it wasn't just her letting us
Yeah,
in the
that's
school.
what I
I
was
think that she looked at, when she said to do something, we followed up. We followed up really quickly with our personal statement. We gave her our grades. We gave her letters of references. It was something to believe in. It was like, okay, so far, I don't know these girls, but what I've seen, their track record, their attendance at school, they would be a good fit for this school. And I think at the time, Cal may have been going through some sort of I don't know
They
if it
had
was
a
affirmative
affirmative action
action, to where they were really looking for students. And I just think at that time, at that moment, it was the right person, the right opportunity, and it was a whole lot of luck.
But
So-
I also too would say that, just even kind of connected with Black History Month, I think that a lot of the people that and again, it's not that she let us get in Cal.
Yeah.
It's not like she put us in there. We earned our space.
Mhm.
And when we were there, we proved to her why we were worthy with our grades and our dedication. And we always, and I actually, after Dee Dee helped me, there was another gentleman who was also from Oakland, had a, difficult street life, that I'd known for many years, and I told him about it. He applied, and she said, you could start in fall too.
But
And
these were the year after.
no,
I
he
was
started
there.
with me. We
Okay.
started at the same time.
But I started
we
the
started
year
year
before
4,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but her, again, she was like the Underground Railroad to Cal. And we really felt that way. At her retirement, there were like more than 20 of her success stories in the room, sharing the beauty and the joy that she brought into our lives and the way she changed our lives by giving us that opportunity and believing in us and not treating us like our circumstances. And so that's, we kind of took that into our own lifestyles and we give back similarly. And but I guess
And I know.
we talk about.
Well, for me,
How you guys give back to.
yeah, I'll talk about, for me, being at Cal was probably one of the most best experiences of my life. The first year was difficult, of course, because I felt like I was in this foreign country. It was like, I could really wholeheartedly tell you, the first day I started, I'm like, what is a syllabus? I've never heard of a syllabus. It was so many things that blue
What is
book,
that
that
for?
I didn't know how to do. And my message to young people, and it will be to you all as well, when you're presented with an opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity, even no matter how uncomfortable it may be for you to get to your next step. Do whatever you need to do to get to that next step. And my uncomfortness came into the fact that I had to seek tutoring because I didn't understand the whole process of writing an exam, the proper way to do it. And I'm starting, and people are looking at me like, oh, did you see the new, this girl on campus? She looks nice. She's, and I was, of course, I think a couple years older than some of the kids attending, because even though I came in as a freshman, I went to, it's the GBC Center or the tutoring center, and I had to ask these kids, I need help. I need help. And they were like, well, what do you need help with? Everything. I'm kind of lost. And it's almost that elephant in the room. Like, how do you tell someone you need help? You want to appear smart. You feel like everybody around you gets it, and you don't get it. But if you don't seek help and you don't ask those questions, and it's this humble yourself, and it's okay to feel like the stupid person, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be stupid anymore, and I could not stupid anymore, but you'll get what you need to get. And I could tell you, I graduated from Cal in 3 years with a almost a 3.6 GPA, and I was very, very happy about that day. Thank you. That day was the best day of my life, and I graduated early because I went to summer school every year. I was like, I got to get out of here. I wanted to go fast, and I didn't think that I could actually graduate until I got to my junior year. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm almost done with this. Like, what do I do? And I'll also take a step back. My second year is when Naisha started. I was a sophomore. A gentleman started the school. It was a guy that was coming to play basketball for the university. And he and I met through a mutual friend, I don't know, just some chance meeting, and we started dating. And we dated before he started school. We met in the summer. And at the end of that year, he left to go in the NBA. He was one of the top recruits in the country, and he was picked number 3 to leave school that year in the NBA. And I remember everybody saying to me the next year when I came as a junior, "Are you still here? I thought you would leave school or drop out of school." And I'm thinking, why in the world would I do that? I came to Cal for, yes, no more dropping out. I came to Cal for a reason, and that was to graduate. I didn't come to Cal to meet anybody. The grace of God, he put him in my life at that time. But I was very excited to stay there. I was very excited to finish. And I did finish, and I didn't have to finish. And I can tell you now that he left school. He did well in the NBA. He and I, got married. We married in year 2000. We've been married. This will be our 12th year now. He's very successful. Thank you.
That's okay.
He's very, yes, yeah, I had kids, but he's very successful. And when I graduated from Cal, I took a year off. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to become an attorney. Because I saw a lot of things happen in the area that I grew up in, and my brother, I didn't say these things, but my brother, as well as some of my friends, some of my family members, was experiencing going in and out of jail. And I had some brushes with the law that, took place early on, that by the grace of God, I didn't end up in a crazy situation or a bad situation. But I have done some things to where I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? But my brother wasn't so lucky. He never really got out of that, lifestyle that we led as young teenagers. And as a result, he ended up in jail, coming back and forth. He also, at the age of 18, he went to prison he was charged with murder. He ultimately was convicted of manslaughter. He served 8 years in jail and was released, and he wanted to get his life together. And I remember him being around just before I got married, and I'm saying, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to get a job? You ready? And he tried. He's like, I'm trying to get a job. But who would hire him? Every time he went to seek employment, he had to put on that application, you've been convicted of a felony. Yes, what for? Who wants to hear manslaughter? And how do you explain that to an employer? And that was one of the things he had to explain because he was on parole at the time. And my husband and I started a foundation in Atlanta, like right in 1999, right away. And it was more so for young people just trying to get themselves together and show them the importance of education. But before a year, I'll backtrack, I skipped. I took a year off from school, and I decided to take the LSAT. I wanted to become a lawyer. Now, since I never took the SAT to get in college, I was a little terrified because I'm like, wow, this is my first experience, with the standardized test. I took it, and of course I passed it, and I got in school. I was accepted in Santa Clara, and I started there, graduated Santa Clara in 2002. My last year I became pregnant with my son, so I didn't take the bar exam at that moment. I just wanted to finish school. I had my son in March, and I graduated in May. And then I moved away for a couple of years. We went to Atlanta because at the time my husband was playing with the Atlanta Hawks. And I'll let her backtrack and talk about all the foundations that I have, that I started with my husband as well as with Naisha, and the passion we have not only for giving back, but also speaking to young people about the importance of education. And for me, I always say education is the ultimate game changer. No matter what your circumstances is, if you get educated, you can't take that away. You cannot take that away. It's a real game changer.
And I don't know how we're doing on time, so I'll try to go back a little bit to Cal and my experience there. I was a single parent, and my son was very young. He wasn't even 1 year old when I started, and that was daunting to me because, you have to balance childcare, being a parent, being a student, having to have a job, receiving social services because I had to have welfare because I couldn't take care of my child without it, and being a parent in an environment where everyone was young and happy-go-lucky and free and parents helping them and taking care of them, and that wasn't my life. Dee and I were roommates in college, and
With the baby.
With the baby.
Baby standing there.
With the baby. He thought he was everybody's baby. Yeah, he was crazy. But and you know, and her husband was my ex-husband's roommate in college. And while I was in school, I took advantage of every single living opportunity I could as a student, because I missed out on grad night and prom and dinner dances and all that stuff. I was way too cool for that when I was young. But by the time I was in college, I was like, I want to feel it all. So I had the little college boyfriend playing basketball. I would have been a cheerleader if I knew how, because I wanted to experience everything. And I pledged a sorority, so I'm an AKA. And while I was there, that I would say is the foundation of my service, of learning how to give back to the community, because that's not something I grew up learning in my household. My mother never took me to the food pantry to give out food, or never took me to feed the homeless, or to give my toys away to less fortunate children. So being a member of a service organization taught me to reach back, to give back, and I was also privileged enough to serve my community, the community that I was reared, because Cal and Oakland are in such close proximity. So I graduated from Cal, and I think my GPA was a 3.02. And I have to put that 02 because I wanted to graduate with over a 3.0, and I felt like that was really a huge accomplishment, because I had a child, and I was a single mom, and I didn't send my son away to be reared by his grandparents or my mom. He was with us in the house from the beginning to the end, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to be the cause of whatever was good or bad in his life. And now he's 17 years old and graduating from high school, and going to break the cycle of generational dropouts in my household and my family and my matriarchal lineage. And I'm very proud that I did put him on my back literally and carry him everywhere that I went. So after graduating from Cal, I got pregnant again with my second son. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's this baby? So I'm pregnant with my son. My ex-husband was also drafted, and he was in the NBA. And so I moved with him to Atlanta to have my child. And then he had a very rough time in the NBA, so he didn't stay there very long. And so we moved back here, and I had another child after we got married, and I was 3. 1, 2, 3 babies. And I was like, wow, I have a lot of kids. Obviously, I'm the only child, and I don't understand how that happened, but I decided to have a big family. And so we got a divorce, and that was very difficult for me, because I realized, I think I started my master's program maybe a month after I had my daughter. I started my master's program, and I got my master's degree in teaching. Ultimately, I wanted to be a teacher because I felt like I can be the teacher that I never had. And I thought this is the most noble profession I could ever aspire to take part in. But I didn't realize that. I knew the salaries were low. I knew that it was going to be a challenge financially. But the thing I didn't bank on is the fact that it's so bureaucratic and so like standardized testing and teaching to the test and all this stuff that I was not happy. I felt like I couldn't teach life, and I couldn't fulfill my passion in connecting with young people in a way that was meaningful. So teaching wasn't for me. And I said, well, maybe I can teach teachers. So I said, let me get my doctoral degree so I can teach teachers. So I enrolled in a doctoral program and finished that a couple months ago. And and my doctoral degree is in organization and leadership. My dissertation topic was collaboration and using interorganizational collaboration to solve community issues. And the issue that I focused on was the dropout rate in Oakland. Because the irony of all of our lives is that although we've had this crazy childhood, we've turned all of the challenges that we've had into successes. And somehow, whether it's our philanthropy or my profession, we give back and serve those who are having similar experiences to the ones we have. So right now, I am the Director of Community Collaboration in Oakland. I lead a collaborative group of individuals across sector to help increase the graduation rate in Oakland. I work with school district personnel, like high-level district staff, as well as city staff, the mayor's office, and stakeholders in the community, in the nonprofit world, to try to brainstorm solutions for our children. And I come to them with firsthand knowledge and experience. They cannot question my experience. You can question what I learned in the books and all the theories, but you cannot question my personal experience, and you can't negate the fact that I have been through a lot to have the testimony and to give whatever, professional expertise I lend to my job. So I feel very, very fortunate to have this career pathway and to have accomplished what I've accomplished academically as well.
And then I'll chime in and talk about some of the nonprofits that I'm involved in and how we started our own nonprofit. My husband's idea was his brainchild to start a nonprofit in Atlanta, Georgia. In the area he grew up in is the area in East Point, which is the inner city. And it was started with just the idea of giving scholarships. And I remember us giving the first scholarship to a student from his high school. It was a full ride to college. And that excitement for that child, the experience of knowing I'm going to college, but I'm going to actually have it paid for. And we went on to start a foundation. It's called the Future Foundation, and a learning center in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's the Reef House. And we started with just 5th and 6th grade students, and it was I think we started with 16 or 17 students, and it was this. My husband built this facility to where it's computers, it's tutoring, it's an after-school facility to where we not only assist with academic help, but we also assist with nurturing that child as well. And it entails picking the kids up from school. It entails taking them from school to our facility, helping with homework, helping with filling out job applications and resumes. And when we started a few years ago, it was a small organization, and now today we built that to where we service over 4,000 kids in Atlanta. We have yearly programs, and we have not only our Reef House, but we have a teen center to where we service teens. We've given out yearly, we have our turkey dinner drive, we have our back to school rally. And it's so much that we do in that community. My husband's organization, which is I'm on the board, was recognized by the Bush administration just before Bush was out of office as the premier model, fastest growing up and coming nonprofit organization, to where he had us come down. I didn't go. Our executive director went to the White House and presented information on the growth of the organization as a model organization, and was proud of that achievement. And we also have grants, and we get grants that help us sustain. But through working with the Future Foundation, which is something that's dear to my heart, I love it. I love seeing the kids. I love the excitement of the kids. We've seen some of the kids we have that are just starting to go to college and have gone on to graduate. And they're from, when we first got these kids, they were the lowest performing kids in their respective schools. And having so much involvement in that community prompted me and Naisha to talk about, okay, I feel vested in Atlanta and I love to do it, but we need to do something in Oakland where we grew up. Let's start an organization. And having a facility is a big feat when you don't really have funds. So we wanted to come up with an idea of what could we do just to start the process, and then, through God's grace, we'll see where it takes us. So we started an organization with another friend, Tamika Raven. She's also from Oakland, and she is heavily involved in the community as well. She's a celebrity stylist. She went to the college for fashion in Los Angeles, and so she's a person that was really interested in helping with our organization. So the three of us founded Oakland Natives Gives Back, and we started off with a back to school rally that Naisha not only orchestrated, but also through her involvement with the city, was able to get us our first annual back-to-school rally, and from there it grew, and I'll let her kind of wrap it up and chime in from there.
Okay.
I think it-
Yeah,
we have to go?
Okay,
Oh.
so,
Yeah.
I'll just really quickly say that one thing that we've learned through this whole process is that it's very important to give back and to show our children and leave a legacy of service in our families and teach others in the community and inspire them to do the same thing. So we've had this back to school rally. This will be our 5th year coming up. It's been very well supported by the mayor's office and the school district and the community-based organization. It's a very collaborative event. And we've given away backpacks to over 5,000 children, backpacks and school supplies to over 5,000 children over the years, and really promoted the start of the school year and being prepared on day one to ensure that parents don't have to struggle to meet those needs in their household. And I guess we can culminate this whole entire discussion by saying that, sometimes, you will have challenges and experiences that kind of knock you off your feet and make you feel like you can't get back up and really accomplish some of the things that you thought you should accomplish, or you may be presented with opportunities that you never thought you would have. I think that from our story, you can see that nothing that you experience is impossible to overcome, whether it's divorce, the death of a family member, failing at one point, or being told that you're not good enough for certain scenarios. We are all good enough. We can all do what we set out to do, and with the help of other people, can provide for a lot of other folks who are in need in the same way.
And when you all get to whatever you're going to be, the incredible people, please reach back to others and, share your testimony or help. So I'm sorry that thank you.
Thank you so much.
I don't think we have time for questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.